afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our panel discussion today. We'll be talking about infrastructure and governance, building institutional AI frameworks for responsible adoption. I am Dr. Ndidi Akuta, and I will be the moderator for this presentation. And we have brief introductions. This is a slideshow of a picture of me. So I'm going to see some of y'all take some pictures, and I will let the panel introduce themselves, and they're on the next slide. All right.
All right, I'm Tony Moore. I'm Executive Director of IT at University of Arizona Global Campus.
Yeah, so when you're in charge, you get to have your own slide, I guess. John Rohr, I'm president of our enterprise AI solutions at AMSYS Innovative Solutions. We are a master systems integrator based in Houston, Texas. Been around for 23 years. And we really look at this concept of AI around data, connectivity, infrastructure, applications, and outcomes. So not here to scare you with the amazing world of AI, but we really look at the baseline infrastructure and how do we deliver that, and then we use AI tools to help provide the outcomes that you're looking for.
Hello, everyone. My name is Courtney Howard. I am the Extension Education Technology Specialist. Basically, that's a long way of saying that my job is kind of like a train-the-trainer model, where I prioritize making sure that our faculty and staff are trained and knowledgeable of all of the new technologies, helping to integrate new technology implementation, and also looking for new applications to bring on to the Extension Department to make sure that we're staying innovative and effective and maximizing the technology that we have on campus. And of course, I work at the Fort Valley State University.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Urban Wiggins. I am the Vice Provost for the Office of Decision Science and Visualization at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and also serve as the Chief Data Officer, where we handle data governance for the institution from multiple perspectives. And as Decision Science and Visualization, the Institutional Research Office resides under me.
All right. I'm here to keep everybody on schedule, and I'll also answer some questions, but also ask some questions if it's pertaining to what we're doing here what I'm doing at my place of employment at Fort Valley State University. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the first question. And the first question will be, how is AI adoption showing up in a day-to-day operations, and where do leadership aspirations differ from practical realities?
So I'll start. Also, just to make it clear, even though I work for UAGC, I am historically black. I'm a Southern University graduate, and actually speaking twofold from my experience there and also at Prairie View, where John and I work to implement the AI platform at PV. So I'll start with my current role. So we are a fully online college. We got 23,000 students. So AI shows up in very concrete ways on our campus. We use automation for our call center, enrollment workflows through Salesforce. We also are doing early adoption of AI-assisted analytics with Power BI. From an aspirational standpoint, it's the seamless, predictive student experience. But the reality is that the infrastructure does not keep pace with the demand. So there's a lot of work that has to be done for us to deliver on the institutional request, because at one point, AI was just sort of a mystery. Nobody really wanted to indulge and engage. And as we begin to build out, I would call sandboxes to allow people to get their hands around it, understand the power of AI, bring in people like John, who also were able to do some use cases and really show us the power and efficiency that can be gained from the technology, we realize that there is work with governance, there's work with training, there's work with developing policies and guardrails, but not just policies for the sake of policies, but policies that could be adopted and followed. And so I think from a reality standpoint, we're still trying to develop that reality check, as I say, what we can deliver. And so we basically go quarter by quarter. We pick the top use cases and we work to get those implemented during those time frames.
Yeah. So from a partner standpoint, what's great about being in this room is a lot of you folks are humble servants to the students that and the communities that you serve. And as a partner, that's what we want to be as well, right? And we want to learn because obviously the world of technology is changing daily. And to your point, Tony, using the term sandbox, I think we've seen AI move from a playground to a battleground. And trying to take the fear out of using tools that help us become more efficient and not replace what we do or who we have in our organizations, but help make their lives better. And so what you mentioned as well was student experience. So we've worked with Prairie View not to just add tools to their IT infrastructure, but build outcomes and work with them on use cases and KPIs to really provide that connected student success experience and really work with them where we have customer success managers and people on site that are anything from running cable to building Wi-Fi to building camera solutions in the stadium for crowd intelligence to help improve concessions and people get through lines faster. So we've really embraced a solid partnership with Prairie View A&M where we just sit in a room and the other thing you mentioned was it's not about the art of the possible anymore. It's about the art of the practical and what can we deliver as a team, right? So we're not really here to do sales anymore. It's more how do we execute together? What are you trying to accomplish? And then how do the tool sets within our partner ecosystem, like with NVIDIA and Lenovo in this case, how do we use that infrastructure to provide those outcomes?
Yeah, I think he definitely made some great points that kind of lead me into like my position. So I have a unique position where I see AI adoption and the challenges from day-to-day operations from an institutional standpoint and from a community standpoint. And I like what he said about basically, you know, making sure that you're becoming partners. It's one thing to adopt AI on your campuses, but if your faculty and staff and students are not ready for that AI adoption, it's just something else that you're adding to their plate, right? So I think a big part of that is like really making sure that you're understanding your community needs, understanding the needs of the university, understanding the gaps that exist when it comes to technology and how you can use AI to fill those gaps. And if you do that, I think you will have you'll see a lot less resistance from faculty and staff because we all know that faculty and staff already have a lot on their plate, right? So anytime you're introducing any type of new technology, AI or anything, you know, they're just like, oh my God, this is one more thing that I have to learn or one more thing I have to use. So really getting to know your audience, knowing your faculty and staff, knowing your students, knowing your community, and figure out how you can close those gaps can help with what leadership desires and what is actually practical. And you will find that moving forward, you know, of course, it will be like it should be an easier transition as we're continuing to search for more innovative and effective ways to increase our work processes.
For me, I come from a different perspective. One of the strongest perspectives that I am addressing is one is from the data governance standpoint, and that it involves the legal aspect between the federal laws that are being created as well as the state laws. And I'm in the state of Maryland, where the state of Maryland has placed in certain, we call them guardrails for right now, for what defines AI and what is allowed, what's not allowed, and what cyber infrastructure is necessary to be able to support it or to not include it, and what caveats can we put in place so that the next version, iteration, AI 2.0, what that will be able to address. The other side of things that we're addressing is the faculty-student side, because I have several faculty members who know AI very well, which is interesting. Their challenge is when you're dealing with students who know AI very well. So you basically have competing entities, and they're trying to address a deliverable. Paper's written very well. It's an A-grade paper. Did he write it? Did she write it? How do you grade it? What do you do regarding the academic acumen that you have to address? Because at the end of the day, this is mandated. We actually are to provide a degree that addresses the knowledge, the knowledge of the student. Well, how do you do that if you don't know if they actually wrote this? So addressing how much AI can be placed into the classroom, what caveats can a faculty member place? You can write on the syllabus, you cannot use ChatGPT to write your essay. That's cute. I mean, it is. You just no way to enforce it, but it sounds really good because you have it on your syllabus. But then what? So those type of challenges from the academic side are real. Some of the students are more versed than some of the professors. Some of the professors, they use the same tool to see what the students may do. And those challenges, trying to negotiate how AI is developed, designed, in some systems it's all encompassing. That means it's listening, it's addressing data set information that may not be true. But it throws that into the bundle, and that's part of the deliverable that students provide. So challenges like that, so that the students understand what is AI, what is it actually doing for you, so you know how to delimit AI, and then dealing with the faculty side who has the responsibility of giving the kid a grade. Well, student, I didn't mean to use kid, but providing the grade to the student. So that's the challenge that's one of the bigger, those are the bigger challenges that we're trying to address so that it's a level playing field.
Great points.
I was about to say, great response. That actually dovetailed into the next question. And it's about how do institutional mission and student population shape AI strategy, especially in mission-driven universities. And I wanted to briefly comment on that, being the CIO at Fort Valley State University. You basically try to embrace AI, and in terms of the mission, equipping your students to be successful in 21st century environment with tools. Working with your different departments on campus, setting policy on the academic side, and then also for the staff side, like keeping your data contained, make sure you don't put it in the wrong places. But I want to see if anybody else want to speak on like what drives AI strategy.
Well, for me, it's money. Like, don't come to me with a problem and you got no money to solve it, right? Because the goals change year to year, and I think the kind of three pillars that we generally operate on is dealing with enrollment, student success, and student retention. So anything along those lines generally are what kind of guide the decisions that we make and the programs that we put in place. So one of the things that I think we have very directed conversations about these things, and it's not inside of a box with just a few people. So it has to be sort of an institution-wide discussion, and making sure, because when you look across large institutions, especially those who are research intensive, those who have large data teams, those who have large infrastructures from a data center standpoint, there are a lot of competing priorities. So what is truly governed by the institution in terms of what's most important, the things that we think about first, and what do we do to sort of drive that? So I'll give you for example, when started working with John, the premise was not to bring AI into the organization. We basically focused on what are the mission-driven outcomes that we were trying to achieve, and not in a singular box. So I had conversations with every cabinet member, every dean on the research side, on the academic side, to come up with a collective, right, and build out like a word cloud for what I thought I heard was most important. And so as I spoke to John, basically now we need to build a foundation. How do we build an infrastructure that can support and scale all of these different various groups, basically having the same guardrails, guidance, precautions, and adoption, right? Because one of the things that I think is often overlooked is change management, right? Bringing in new things into any environment without the proper training. And Courtney spoke about that a little earlier. And it's not as seamless as you would think it is, right? There's always an excitement, and then until the work starts. And once the work starts, and then your meetings dwindle from 75 to 50 to 100, and then it's just you and Zoom sitting in the meeting. So I think those are the kind of principles I think that we take in place when we're looking at mission-driven outcomes, but making sure it comes from a perspective and it's an institutional priority and not driven by one sector of the campus.
Yeah, and if I can add kind of a different perspective, when we started working together, we saw the value of the tools we were creating with the students and the faculty, and this was specifically for the doctoral nursing practice and their program to help their students get access to the digital library, improve their tools, and help them get through the curriculum faster to get into the workforce, right? And then through that, we found that workforce development really became kind of our just secondary kind of approach to offer an additional advantage to the university, because instead of us just selling tools and services and infrastructure to Prairie View A&M, we were able to use our platform to elevate a brand persona and the innovation that they're building inside their campus, right? And so once we started talking about it together with the platform that NVIDIA brings, we now created this massive megaphone that students got to understand more. Okay, here's NVIDIA, the biggest company around AI, and then what GPUs are, what accelerated computing is, what software is, and what curriculum is, to bring more resources to the university. And honestly, that ends up helping with student success and student retention, as well as student acquisition. Because in your initiative around Journey to Eminence, we're aligning with your strategy, right? Because we're talking about the greatness and the innovation that Prairie View's bringing to their students and their community. So we found that as an additional kind of advantage to bring to the table, and then other companies wanted to chime in and support that messaging. So I feel like it's very important to build your collective and create that ecosystem of partnerships that are going to tell that story in the market so that people will come to you, right? It makes the recruiting process a lot easier.
Yes. Totally agree. I would say I have had the pleasure of going to a lot of tech conferences. A lot of them are centered around AI. And I heard this particular statement one time, and it's always stuck with me. And it's something that I use foundationally when I'm thinking about AI, and it's AI will not replace your jobs, but someone who knows how to use AI will. What does that mean? We want, as an institution, your goal should be to graduate students that are ready to enter into the workforce. And where we are now, we can't consider our students ready to enter the workforce if they don't have some type of knowledge of AI, if that makes sense. So when it comes to the mission-driven portion of that, it all starts foundationally with we have to solve the problem, right? AI is not going anywhere. as he said earlier, there is no guarantee. We can put it in the syllabus, don't use it, but we know 9 times out of 10 the students will be using artificial intelligence. 10 times out of 10, right? And from a faculty perspective, you have to, as they say, govern yourself accordingly. I'm a millennial, so I remember when I still had to write research papers by hand, right? And I remember when internet couldn't even be used as a reliable source. When internet couldn't be used as a reliable source, like we had to use articles or books or something of the sort. But when internet came about and people realized, like, okay, this is not going anywhere. This is going to be integrated into our school systems, and this is going to be even a bigger part of our everyday lessons and our everyday teaching. And when I think about artificial intelligence, it's the same thing, right? So just creating that culture, and it kind of goes back to thinking about how can we improve this by solving the problem for the students and solving the problem for the faculty, and then working with vendors to create the ecosystem to make it all complement each other. So.
I'll be short. Everybody pretty much has said the things I was going to say anyway.
You get to go first next time.
Okay. So I'll focus on the predictive side because I deal with institutional research. The thing that we focus on and try and teach, because the concept is, oh, you put it in AI, it's going to tell you, you can do predictive analytics and all that. You just put it in AI. That sounds really cute. However, even if you have the math with machine learning techniques and large language models, here's the fun thing. One, did you know that the dean in 3 years over there in the pharmacy department is about to create a new program? No, it's not written. If it's not written, it's not in the system. If it's not in the system, they won't know it. Oh yeah, did I tell you that we, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, we have a new vet program? Only one on the Eastern Shore. So south, once you pass Tuskegee, we're the Eastern Shore vet program. Yeah, what does that mean? Well, how many students you gonna get? There's no past data for AI to reference, so it sounds good, really, really good. Everyone here, we're all aware of the latest political situation that we're in, and the changes that were made about a year ago in regard to DEI. So grants that had funding for DEI, we lost many of the grants. They had students that were paid out of that. Okay, well, if they were paid out of that and they're no longer being paid, what type of impact is that going to have upon the student population of your institution? Okay, as some may know or some may not know, it's been publicly disclosed that several countries have stated that they're not going to send as many students to the United States as the years progress. So what type of factor would that be? You can use SPSS, that's nice, and you can use Tableau, that's cute, because see, you know, these models, so when we have these conversations about the changes for predictive analytics, it has a foundational basis upon the past, but you have other knowledge and concepts. So speaking to what she said regarding replacing a person or replacing the position, a person understands the impact of a new program. The person can understand the impact of upgrading and adding a new program inside a currently existing major. A person can understand, without looking at too many numbers, if you start losing your international population, what impact would that have? Your DEI funded students, those grants, those positions are. Now, ask me the question again of how many students you plan on having next year, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. So we have the ability to make projections. We have the ability to guess. Maybe not at the Dr. Spock level, and I'm really dating myself by saying that, and I just realized it sounded a bit differently in my head, but we have the ability to make some educated guesses, informed guesses, but we're not quite there yet, and that's one of the challenges that we need we, from the tech side, need others to understand that you just can't put it in AI and say, oh, it's like gumbo, it's gonna come out great. No, that's not how that works. And them to be able to understand, but it also means that we as a whole, we need to open our eyes and our ears to other aspects that we need to consider when you start doing projections and you start looking at how to predict tomorrow. So that's the predictive challenges that we are facing right now.
Dr. Wiggins, I love that you're on this panel because you bring a lot of knowledge and character to the discussion.
And also add that he didn't find out he was presenting to this morning, so.
That's the amazing part about it. It's like he hasn't even seen the questions and he's dovetailing it to the next questions. So that makes it so much fun. So we're going to talk about governance, data, sovereignty, and ethics. So I'm gonna put both questions out here. You can respond to both, or you can respond to one. If I need to repeat the question, just let me know. The questions are, what does an operational AI governance framework look like in practice? And then the second question is, what should institutions require from AI vendors regarding data ownership, model training, privacy, and contract protection? So whoever wants to start, feel free to start.
I'll tackle the governance, and you're going to have to repeat that second question.
All right, great.
No, I'll go with the first. So for governance, my perspective, we really kind of lean around three principles. And that's transparency, accountability, and human oversight. And, so from the transparency standpoint, before we bring in tools, we have an approval process. So nothing can touch student data until we've got a clear use case and a clear data classification. We have to verify that the models that we're using aren't being trained by our data. All right, and so the second aspect of that is audits. So we make sure that we understand where our data resides, where it lives. When we have a contract that comes to an end, how do we get that data back? And when is that data deleted? And that has to be implicitly stated inside of the contract, or we don't sign it. We had a situation just last week with our academic technology team, brought in a group to build out. We're moving from an internal student assessment application to Canvas, and so we had to rebuild a lot of the courses in Canvas. So they brought in an instructional design company. Actually, it's people who used to work for another vendor that started a company, but mom and pop shop. And so I got an email Tuesday, and it had their security rating. And I thought it was like a joke or just like a mistype, because it was an F, like a F. They had one A, and that was just basically they had insurance. Everything else, they had no policies. Their cyber posture was like a negative something, and we had already signed a contract. Wow. So immediately we had to go put some remediation in, and basically decided that we would just sort of phase them in, and as they become more mature, they'll get more access. But just like right now, they can't get in and get full access to anything. But that's important because you need to build that sort of governance inside the procurement process. So somehow, we had a dean that got slick and got it through procurement without IT purview, but we kind of scaled it back and got it in control. And I'll say the last thing is governance. And governance should not be a policy. It should be an operational posture. And it needs to be understood. And you don't need 40 pages, right? You can get away, as long as it's clear who decides, who reviews, who approves. That's all you need. Everything else can follow suit. And I think that that's the most important thing think through from a governance standpoint, because when you have no rules, and my favorite say, if it ain't written, it ain't real. And that's kind of the motto that I stand by. And so, but that's my perspective, sort of like governance, how it's currently being used at UAGC, and sort of the practices that we follow that purview.
I'll keep it simple. Really, the foundation using kind of FERPA as a baseline, starting there, we talked about this a little earlier, but then using NIST frameworks and IEEE frameworks and the security layers that they provided for governance is kind of where we start as an organization, but holding ourselves accountable. So I don't want you to dictate our security posture. We need to come to you with here's what I would ask all of your partners, right? And then really it's where does the data residency, where is the data going to live? Is it going to live in your data center, somebody else's data center? And what does data sovereignty mean? And how do I protect that? And then the fun part comes, okay, well, where do I put the servers? Do I have power? Do I have networking? Can I cool that room? And these are all questions that need to be asked before we figure out what tools we're going to put in. And then how do I allow my vendors to access that data? For example, we have about 50 data scientists as forward deployed engineers that we bring in, right? How are they going to get into your tool sets and access critical secure data in a secure way? So the whole kind of team needs to be engaged, from the business unit owners to the deans to the technology teams, and figure out what is the process we're going to create from where's the data going to live, how's it going to be protected, what data we're going to use. And so really a data audit is important to start with up front, and the security audit on top of that, I think, is the best place to start before you start building things and adding more tools to the enterprise.
Well, I have limited experience to talk about negotiations, rather from an IT leadership standpoint. I will speak in regards to a faculty staff position in regards to new vendors. Before I came in higher education, I was a K through 12 teacher. And one of the things that I learned as a K through 12 teacher is that you have to have a system for everything. If you have a system for everything, your classroom will run as a well-oiled machine. And when I think about that as far as a classroom, I also think about that in regards to a business, right? My degrees are business degrees, and one thing that I learned as a business student and someone who has had a job in corporate America before is that successful businesses have systems, and they have systems that make sense, and they have systems that work. And it's one thing to have a system from the governance standpoint, but what is the systems for the faculty and staff, right? How, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but I think a lot of times faculty and staff are left out when it comes to the consumer aspect of adopting AI technology or any type of technology. Is what can we do for the faculty and staff, right? So is it, can we come on campus and do some special training? Can we offer the faculty and staff free or discounted resources? Like what can you do? How can the vendor show that, hey, this is just not, you're not just another contract, right? But we're investing in you, we're investing in your institution, we're investing in your faculty and staff, and we're investing in your students.
Okay, so I'm gonna deviate a bit from the IT mindset of data governance, and I'm gonna do a different pivot because as Chief Data Officer, my look at IT is the server up and running, and can I get through the network to it? I actually have to deal with the silos. One of the things with data governance that we brought to the table, along with what has already been discussed, is I can't have finance, I can't have the bursar's office creating a whole new set of codes to show that someone is paid or is on a payment plan and tell no one. I can't have admission create a new student type code that already exists in the system. They just don't want to use that one. it's a duplicate, but they don't like the way it looks. So when you talk about data governance, I'm on the side of the data side. And with the data side, that means that those silos that currently exist, they have to come down. So part of my data governance council, I actually have faculty. Yes. I don't have students. But I do have faculty. I do have staff. I do have administrators. Mm-hmm. The goal at this point is to provide an environment where everyone is in the know, and the validation tables that are established for different areas, that they're understood. And that's the whole governing aspect of it. Now, in another life, I worked at Intel as a network engineer. And Intel's mindset was that few policies, a lot of guidance. The goal at that point, which I kind of adopted, is we have certain set policies. You do not create a new code and arbitrarily sit it into the system and tell no one. We have scripts that financial aid runs. It's a new code. Financial aid won't know it. It's not in there. And if I don't know that you created a new code for these students, when I run an enrollment report, I'm not going to capture them. It's minor. No, it's not when you have to report this to an agency, to the state, to the federal government. Minor to you maybe, but it's impactful to others. So when it comes to data governance, the goal for one aspect of our goal is that we can govern in entirety. We can't govern just a little bit section right here, and then this little section right. No, that's not governance. That's just people just kind of negotiating little things. No, we have to be on the same page as one entity. And that required many conversations that they were a little heated. Because I'm used to it, because if I have to we have the 6-month payment plan, we have the 4-month payment plan, and we need, how many times do you need to say paid? Well, see, this is paid for this semester. Yeah, but paid is paid though, right? Yeah, but see, this is the paid for the fall and the spring. And I got 35,000 different codes that mean the same thing. Yeah, but that's different. Stop. Time out. The conversations may not be, they're going to be friendly, but they may be just those conversations that need to be held, because the silos that many institutions have operated in for so long, they existed, but we can't persist at this point. Data is key. And for data to be key, we need to understand the data itself. And for data governance, you're going to have those other conversations and be willing to call some supporting in to be able to address it. But we all want to work as one entity, as one system.
I agree.
I forgot the second question. So.
Oh, yeah, that's all good. It's all good. I want to comment briefly, like data governance is important. You need data dictionaries for departments to all know what the same definition means.
And ownership. That's
ownership as well. I agree with that. And briefly on AI vendor management, because I was at a statewide CIO meeting last week, and AI vendor management, where do you draw the line with the definition of AI in terms of you using AI on the front end, are you using it on the back end, are you telling us you're using it on the back end? Where do you draw the line, or how much, if it's in your process of getting all the data from the vendor, like where is AI being used, and just making sure you do all that. But we got 6 minutes left, everyone. Want to give time for some questions, so I'm gonna try to summarize the last questions or just ask one of the questions. So on the frame of AI adoption, what are the hurdles to it? How can you get past those barriers or change? We're just gonna speak on AI adoption. What does it look like in the real world? Before you scale up, what do you consider? That's what this last question is gonna be about, and I'll start with whoever wants to start.
I'll start on this one. So it's one thing to use artificial intelligence, but then it's another thing to use artificial intelligence effectively, right? So all of us as humans have our own set of special gifts and talents, right? We have our own special set of knowledge that we bring forth to the table. And that is one thing that, makes us, the human using the technology, that's how we maximize it, right? So for myself, I am a creative and I'm a visionary. But where I would struggle the most is taking the vision and breaking down into steps to realize that vision in real time, right? So why am I saying this? It all goes back to what I was saying earlier, training. Training is very, very, very important. If you do not invest in training, if you do not take the time to sit your faculty and staff down and to give them the proper training so they can understand what they're using and how it can make their work processes more effective and how it can fill in the gaps of things that used to take them weeks to do, they can now break that down in a fraction of a time. If you do not take the time to explain those types of things, they will be resistant because their loads are already full. So, but if you understand how to use artificial intelligence as a tool, it can help you to take your full workload and minimize that, right? But if we're honest, just as I said, before I became in higher education, I did not like artificial intelligence because I thought it was just another excuse for our students to be lazy until I educated myself on it, until I learned how to use it, until I learned how to use it in a way that works for me. What works for me might not work for everybody on campus, but that's okay. If you take the time to give the education and training behind it, you will have way less resistance. And not only will you see a trend where they're accepting new AI adoption, but they want more because they see how it makes their everyday work life and professional life and personal life easier.
I'll go with something real quick. One of the things to roll out, I've been in several meetings with a lot of very brilliant people, but they're brilliant in their fields. So for baselining is, what's the difference between machine learning and AI? Mm-hmm. One of the problems, the challenges I faced is there is no level set, generically acceptable definition of artificial intelligence where you can point to it and say, yes, that's a chair. Yes, that is artificial intelligence. The understanding of where machine learning stops and artificial intelligence begin and how people use the term, I think it's muddy because if I ask certain people what AI is or say this is something, here's a product, is this AI or not, I'm probably going to get multiple answers. So when you talk about challenge, we can't really move forward if we're talking about two different things. Mm-hmm. So establish a benchmark or a generic floor for this. At this point, this is artificial intelligence. Above this is what we're talking about, but this is the floor. So until that has been established, we'll be talking about two different things when technically this is a machine learning issue. It has no intelligence whatsoever. It's just predictive based upon a pattern. It's the weatherman's result. 90% chance of rain today. Well, that's predictive, but that's not necessarily artificial intelligence. So that, I think, is for me where your challenge begins.
Education.
Yeah. All right. We'll briefly go into questions. We have mics on both sides. If anybody have questions or if you got a loud voice, you can
belt it out.
Chair. If we have any questions, we have a very diverse panel up here of different experiences.
Repetition, and then, it's the messaging has to be the same every time at every level. And it's the consistency, and, you have done it in your role. You, as a leader, cannot be in the office, right? CIOs director levels, it's about relationships, because the technology is the technology, right? But in order to solve business problems and in order to be relatable, you have to have those conversations. So I think if you're consistently saying the same messaging across every level, and from the president on down, I think that's how you start. But it's not an easy shift. But if you're consistent and you repeat the same process, repeat the same messaging, I think eventually they'll get it. Because, as a leader, you have to take a stand on, when and you're principled about things, got to have some flexibility. Not like Dr. Urban over there. Call him Dr. Data.
Hey,
We might need another 30 minutes.
Another 30 minutes.
well, let me tag on to what he said, though, even though he took that little dig. Yeah, really. One of the things, to balance off what he said, one of the things I bring up is making sure that everyone is speaking the same language. Because if I said cohort that appeared in the fall, that generally has a concept in certain areas that's your transfer, all the students that began for the first time in the fall. That would be your transfer students. That would be your dual enrollment students. Mm-hmm. That would be your cross-register students who come in for the first time. And then that would be your first-time freshmen. Mm-hmm. However, here's the problem. In an institutional research area or dealing with the state or your governing agencies, when they say cohort, they specifically mean the federal definition of full-time, first-time, degree-seeking students that are paid and that are paid by the census date. That's what that means. Yeah, you're right. No deviation. First-time, full-time, degree-seeking, and paid by the census date. Transfer students. Did I say transfer students? Dual enrollment. Did I say dual enrollment? Cross-register. Did I say cross-register? So when you use the term cohort, everybody knew what I said the first time. You knew what I meant. Mm-hmm. But I was talking about this group. So when he talks about the governance, level set the governance with that data cookbook where we are talking about the same thing. We're on the same page. Mm-hmm. And I'm not assuming I know what you mean. Cohort, yeah, all the new kids. No. But that is, I think, one of the biggest things to go along with what Tony said before he made the comment about me being strict. Thank you. I need the support. Go ahead.
We got a few more questions. Look like they're letting us go over a little bit. So I seen your hand first, sir.
Bias has always been in predictive analytics. It's always been there. It's been addressed in multiple factors. Without me putting out on my computer science hat, the way to deal with biases, there are multiple ways to address it, but one of the ways that we do deal with it when it comes to the enrollment aspect of it is to place the limiters on the data that we're addressing and the variables that we're using to be able to come up with our solution. We calculate that. So technically speaking, I do the math to address it. And I apologize, I take my computer science teacher hat off for that. But yeah, that's what I have to do because of the fact that biases can lead you down so many rabbit holes.
Mm-hmm. All right, so one last question, we're gonna wrap it up. What you got?
Just real quick, this is for Dr. Wiggins and Ms. Howard as the educators.
Okay.
Artificial intelligence. Just to read this real quick. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang advises that the most valuable new skills in the AI era are AI literacy, natural language prompting, engineering, critical human judgment. What are your thoughts about the next evolution? So, Ms. Howard, we talked about it's going to happen. I think you said something, Dr. Wiggins, about they're going to use it. But just being able to use it, when I'm 58, so the work that my kids, my kids that I work with doing 3D modeling, used to have a master's degree to do 3D modeling. So the technology is going to happen. The tools are going to happen. The ability to maximize the use of the tools is something different. So the next skills, instead of calling them
So I have like a two-part to that. Number one, artificial intelligence, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Artificial intelligence, the challenge in that is it's forever changing. It's always updating. There's always something new they're adding to it, right? So to a certain extent, you almost have to like constantly educate yourself on what is going on in that space to kind of stay on top of it. But most students are using generative AI, basically like, let's just say ChatGPT, right? It's the most popular thing that everybody's using. But even in me learning how to use it effectively, what I found is it's only as good as you train it to be, right? So if you're going in there just saying, hey, can you polish this email for me? That's one thing. But if you're saying like, okay, I am a project manager and these are the things that I have to do. These are the goals that we have to reach. You feed that into that engine. You tell your chatbot, this is what I need to accomplish. These are the skills that I'm bringing forward to the table. This is what I do well. This is what I'm not so good in. Help me to figure out a solution that complements what I do well and again, the gaps that I need to be filled, right? And the unique thing about it is that you can change it or use it as you need for whatever skill that you're using it for. Does that make sense? So I can use it on a professional side and I can use it personally. But whatever I'm using it for, I have to take the time to educate myself on the prompts, right? There is not, in my opinion, there's no cookie cutter. This is the way you do a prompt, right? Depending on the information that depending on the outcome, is depending on the information that you need to feed it to make sure that it's giving you an outcome that is not biased or that is not considering certain information. So that's one part. And two, like I said, it is challenging because it's always developing. It's always enhancing. I mean, 2 years ago, you had Chat 2.0. I think now we're at like, 5.5 in 2 years, right? So, but you got to take the time to look at what's going on in your particular market too, right? Because I'm a business student, right? But I'm weak in science, right? To a certain extent. So what my chatbot looks like as a business student is going to be totally different from what a chatbot looks like as a science major. So it's unique in the fact that you are able to build it in a way that serves you. And I think that is what makes artificial intelligence marketable, and it also makes it innovative for the everyday person.
I'm about to say, I'm going to invite Dr. Wiggins and you to keep this discussion going. I'm not sure when the next presentation starts, but I see people coming in, and they're probably like, what is going on? So, so great people. I'm sure you can track them down.
Give me 30 seconds. Give me
30 seconds?
30 seconds.
I got 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Can I get 30? Okay, I'm
All
going
right.
to take 30 seconds. To answer your question, you were speaking about it, but they were speaking from the perspective of that job industry. And just like about 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, where everyone's saying, okay, the next job surge is in software engineering, computer science. And then next thing you know, based upon that, computer science became a major. You had your software engineers, and then it branched out, and that aspect of computer science became a part of every particular program. You can look at all programs across the campus right now. Everybody has some aspect of computer science within it. He was speaking about what the next big burgeoning area is. And from there is where I see that it's going to go and be expanded so that people in agriculture are going to be using AI. Mm-hmm. They're going to be building tools based upon what they have. Am I down 30 seconds?
20.
Good. But that's the way I took it when he made the comment about AI and that being it. The same way it did when computers came on the scene. Mm-hmm. Computer scientists were centralized, and then from there it built up, and then it branched out, almost like a tree. I think that's the direction that he was on. But he was only focusing on the trunk part, and I think the next iteration will be it branching out into every particular field. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're being a lifeguard or not. You're going to be doing something with the computer. Guess what? You're going to be doing something with AI.
Mm-hmm. All right. In closing, one of the acknowledgments, I want to thank Mr. Pavin that works with Mr. MSCC. He the one that created our slides, even added Dr. Wiggins last minute. He kept us together, kept meddling. He just showed up out of nowhere. He made it happen. and I want to thank him. That's all we have today, everyone. Thank you for attending,
Thank you.
and we appreciate it.